much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, let's disturb the peace. We're trying to man too cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, disturb the peace. We're trying to man too cool. Disturb the peace. Protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, let's disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace. From heaven, there's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, let's disturb the peace. We're trying to man too cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, disturb the peace. We're trying to man too cool. Disturb the peace. Protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, let's disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace. From heaven, there's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, let's disturb the peace. We're trying to man too cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, disturb the peace. We're trying to man too cool. Disturb the peace. Protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, let's disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace.
Welcome to Disturbing the Peace. I'm your host, John Amanchukwu, coming to you live from Refi Studios. Today on the show, we will talk about some cultural issues. Number one, we'll talk about what's going on in Atlanta. They're going to merge the Magic City Strip Club with a basketball game for the NBA. And we know that kids go to these events. We'll also talk about AJ Dybantsa, who has decided to stay, in college because his mother wants him to get his degree. He has a good mother. And then we'll talk about this Teen Titans toy that a mother found at a store, and the toy twerks. I mean, twerking toys for kids. It's insane. All here today on Disturbing the Peace. Two very different sports stories are sparking a cultural conversation this week. The Atlanta Hawks are facing backlash for promoting a Magic City night, referencing Atlanta's famous strip club alongside, rapper T.I. and others that are coming, and other artists. At the same time, elite basketball prospect AJ Dybantsa is drawing praise for reportedly prioritizing earning a college degree before entering the NBA. So the question becomes, what values are young athletes and young fans being encouraged to follow? Joining us now to discuss this cultural topic is Delano Squires of the Heritage Foundation. Delano, welcome. I appreciate you for coming on the show. With the work that you're doing with the Heritage Foundation, it's imperative that we lift up your voice. You are cutting through much of the darkness that's being pushed upon young men in society. And we know the statistics of the number of minority men who play in the NBA. We know the implications thereof. We know that kids in the Black community grow up with hoop dreams or with football dreams, not much with hockey dreams, but football, basketball, possibly track. If man can run, then man might have a future, right? And so with this in mind, and with your work in building up the nuclear family and strengthening marriage, we have to talk about our young men and what's being presented to them. So first and foremost, the Atlanta Hawks promoted a Magic City night tied to a famous strip club. And the question is, should an NBA franchise celebrate this kind of culture?
Well, of course not. I mean, and the NBA, along with all the other professional leagues, in my opinion, should be catering first and foremost to families, because families, moms and dads are typically the ones who have the resources to bring their children to games. And as kids become, more in love with the sport, whatever sport it is, you have a greater opportunity to create sort of intergenerational loyalty to one particular franchise. So these should be spaces that are family friendly. That doesn't mean that they have to play Barney and Baby Shark, but there's a lot of space between that and the most degrading and disgusting types of lyrics that appear in some of the songs from artists that the NBA wants to platform. So no, this should. I'm not even sure why the NBA would think this is a good idea. I get it's Atlanta, and I get many people see Magic City as an iconic institution. But every institution doesn't have to be tied to every other institution, right? The Raiders play football in Las Vegas. That doesn't mean that, I don't know, I think it's called the Bunny Ranch, where they have legal prostitution, should be doing some celebratory night at the stadium where the Raiders play. So some things can just stay separate and stay in the dark and stay at the margins of society. But what we've done over the last, I'd say, 5-6 decades is that we've taken the things that have been at the margins, that have been done in the darkness, and we've brought them into the light and into the mainstream. And we've taken what used to be in the mainstream, particularly the ability to profess one's Christian faith, the desire to create families built on the foundation of marriage, and we've moved that to the margins. So we've taken what used to be abnormal and we've made it normal, and we've moved what has been normal and moved it to the fringes.
Let's talk about the demographics. 45 to 46% of Atlanta is Black, 38% white, 6 to 12% Hispanic, and 5% Asian. So by and large, one could say that I guess this is another framework of what is perceived to attract Black people. And so now the Atlanta Hawks is, going full on culture, and they want to drive in support, get up ratings, things of that nature. So therefore, they came up with a bright idea of merging the strip club with the basketball game. Do you think that this is what minorities really want in Atlanta?
I'm sure some are excited about it. The people who run Magic City, its owners, its patrons, rappers, DJs, bartenders, strippers. I'm sure they're excited about it because it brings attention to that establishment. But I would hope that the average everyday Georgian who lives in Atlanta, and particularly like the Black folk from Atlanta, especially middle-class Black folk from Atlanta, would see that this is not a sign of progress. Actually, this is a sign of regression. It used to be the case that Blacks who had education and were upwardly mobile were trying to bring the race forward and upward. But it seems now that every Negro with a PhD and a lot of middle and upper class Black folks find ways to defend the most self-destructive and degenerate behavior. So I don't see this as a sign of progress, and I hope that the majority of Atlanta citizens don't see it that way either. But what often tends to happen is that the voices of the classes, even though they're fewer in number, tend to drown out the desires of the masses. I'm not sure if that's the case here. I would hope that, again, most people in Atlanta would not see this as a sign of progress. There are other institutions that they could have something tied to, the Martin Luther King Center, and highlight that as an iconic institution in Atlanta. But instead, they're choosing to do this. One thing I will say is that I read a piece, an article on CBS that was talking about this issue, and they had, I guess, the current owner or operator at Magic City speaking on this, and they had a dancer who they identified as a woman named Yaya, and it said that she was the daughter of the founder. And I found that fascinating, that a woman whose father founded an establishment that I'm sure makes a lot of money, they've been probably raking it in hand over fist, finds herself taking off her clothes and dancing in front of strangers for money. To me, that is a sign that it is possible to be a provider and a breadwinner as a father and still fail at your primary job and obligation, which is to raise your children up with the types of morals and values that put them on the path to success.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. What a travesty it is. I want to show you this video clip here, and then I'll get your reaction to it when we come back.
A couple of institutions in American sports and American culture will be coming together in Atlanta, and it is causing a huge controversy between the NBA and NBA players. So what we're talking about is a planned night for the Atlanta Hawks on March 16th. They are planning to have a big celebration during the game that night. And the celebration is called Magic City Monday. They're going to be celebrating a club in Atlanta, a very famous club. In fact, it's a landmark club in Atlanta called Magic City, and it is a strip club. Now, this has incensed some players, some NBA players, and let's be honest, a lot of NBA players frequent Magic City and have over the years. But there are some players who feel like this is going a step too far when you're at a game to have a celebration where there are families, to have a celebration of a place like Magic City. The player who's led the charge here doesn't play for the Hawks. He plays for the San Antonio Spurs, Luke Cornett. And he said this: I would like to respectfully ask that the Atlanta Hawks cancel this promotional night with Magic City. The NBA should desire to protect and esteem women, many of whom work diligently every day to make this the best basketball league in the world. We should promote an atmosphere that is protective and respectful of the daughters, wives, sisters, mothers, and partners that we know and love. Now,
all right, so there you have it. So Luke comes out and he speaks against it, and other players have as well, which is good. We need more of that. Are they trying to normalize this for young athletes? Is this the strategy? Is this the ploy? Is this the goal, to normalize this kind of behavior? There was a time where if a person went to a strip club, they did that at about 12 or 1 a.m. They wanted it to be private. They didn't want anyone to know. The average person who goes online and takes a look at porn, which they should not do, they do so privately, where no one can see them. They think they're all alone, but God, of course, sees. But the intent is to do it privately. When things that were once deemed as, I have to have a sense of shamefacedness about this, has now become a public mainstay. What is that saying, Delano?
It says that you have a culture that's in a state of decline. Now, to answer your question, do I think that the NBA is trying to normalize this? Not necessarily. I think the NBA is just reflecting what has already become normalized. I mean, players have been going to strip clubs, including Magic City, for a long time. But as you said, this is not something that they would put, on the front page of the newspaper. They wouldn't necessarily share it and tell everybody and promote it. I think the league is reacting to what it believes is culturally acceptable. And in the same way, we see pride nights in every league in ways that were unimaginable in the 1980s. In the 1980s, you wouldn't have professional sports leagues celebrating, homosexuality or the idea that men can become women. But today, that's the case. And I think the leagues have really no true values or principles other than making money. So they will go wherever the wind is blowing. They will endorse whatever position or movement they believe is popular among their base. So all of these leagues, basically are progressive in nature in terms of their politics and how they operate. So whatever they think, Black folk, women, LGBT people, the quote unquote marginalized and oppressed groups are interested in and would promote, they're willing to get behind. And it's sad and it's unfortunate, but I think the league's actions are downstream of a larger cultural reality. And that's the part that we have to address. And it's this idea that it's not exploitation if women are the ones doing it.
Wow.
All right. I doubt any NBA player would be happy if his sister or the mother of his children
or his aunt
worked at Magic City, right? Or aunt,
auntie was at the game.
Correct. So I don't think that they would endorse their loved ones and their family, the women in their family, working at Magic City. But it's a culture that they certainly indulge in, and now I think the league is being responsive. It is good to see that some players are stepping up. Obviously, Luke Cornett is probably the most prominent. He's gotten the most attention. But I think it does say something in terms of that obvious racial dynamic where the players who are defending it tend to be Black, and the player most associated with opposing it is white. And I think that says something disturbing about the state of the culture.
It's funny that you bring that up, because when you think about the landscape of Atlanta, there's so many women who talk about the fact that they can't even find a husband. They can't even find a man because it's not that they're going to see. A lot of the guys don't want to see the women shaking. I'm sure that the degenerate men are not going to show up in big numbers at this event because they don't want to see booty and ball. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, they're looking for another man. Now, they probably have men out there doing the same thing. And if they're going to promote that, maybe so. But I've seen the statistics. I've heard the feedback that, it's a desert for getting married in Atlanta for so many reasons. Atlanta is almost like a hub where it's a mini Black Hollywood. Everyone is about being a stopper, being a baller. The mindset is about getting the bag and being flashy and all of that stuff. This is not happening in Iowa. It's not happening in Idaho. It's not happening in Maine. An NBA franchise is saying that this is what Negroes want, and we're going to keep the soft bigotry of low expectations rolling, and we're going to give them what they want because, hey, if they like it, we love it, we make money, they leave happy, and maybe we make this a recurring theme. Maybe that's what we do. My question is, can me and you do a partnership and have a Black family night for the Atlanta Hawks? Maybe we should do a partnership with the Heritage Foundation and go and have a Christian night, family night, nuclear family night. Talk about the genocide in our community. Do something that's wholesome. Would that be welcome? Yes, they'll do the pride nights. They'll do the booty and ball night. Or will they do a family night? What do you think?
I would hope so. I don't have a lot of confidence in most mainstream organizations, institutions, or professional sports leagues. But I mean, there was a time when the NBA Players Association, through their foundation, they were running ads promoting fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they do that now. I would love to see the NBA restart that and add sort of the value of marriage and fatherhood.
Right.
And use some of their players, or ones who are willing to step forward and actually serve as role models, to say, look, one of the best things that I've ever done in my life is marry my wife. And now we have a beautiful family. We have, multiple children. And that to me is the type of thing that the NBA should be celebrating, not this. And even though, they're not going to have strippers at the game, right? It'll just be celebrating Magic City. What I've read is that, fans will be able to taste some of the wings that they serve at Magic City and then buy some merch. But the idea that you would want to associate yourself with this type of institution doesn't really make sense to me. Again, they could have chosen to highlight the King Center. To your point, if they wanted to get a church, a lot of people are starting to pay attention to, Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell and his 2819 church. They could have a night like that. There are many things that they could do. And it's not to say that they don't do or won't do some of these things, but this is always the case, that the negative always tends to get more attention. So it would be great to see the Hawks and other NBA franchises begin to focus on the positive. And certainly that begins with the benefits of strong, healthy families.
I agree with that. I like wings. I don't eat them often, but I do like wings. I'm a drum man. I'm not a flats kind of guy. Give me the drums, right? And but you got to cook them well done, thy good and faithful servant, right? I won't mind like that. But some of the best wings known to man comes from Hooters. It does, and as much as I like those wings, man, Brother John just can't stop by Hooters on the way home and go have some wings, because it's not going to look good if someone sees me. I could only imagine me walking in. They're like, is that the guy that goes viral for speaking at the school board meetings? They would start videotaping me and all that stuff, and I'm sitting over there with my lips greasy trying to eat some wings, but it's not going to go well for me. So I could care less about their wings. I listen, the lemon pepper this and the I don't know, the spicy this and the habanero this. I don't care about that. The thing is, the average kid is sitting there thinking to themselves, what is Magic City? I have seen that building. And then they go look it up. And then they go gain more information. And then all of a sudden, the cookies on the internet begin to show them other images and other themes, all of the above. I don't think this is wholesome. It's not good, and I agree with you 100%. And hopefully, some of the pastors, in that area will speak up. If I had to bet, Philip Anthony Mitchell will, but there's some other preachers there who may not care. They might go
Might be at the game.
There, see, you said it. They may be courtside talking about, man, it's lit in here. We having a ball. I wonder if Bishop William Murphy is going to go.
Or Jamal Bryant.
You said it. I wonder, will Jamal Bryant show up courtside? Him and his beautiful bride. I wonder. Is this something that they would allow to entertain them? Jamal speaks up about a lot of things pertaining to Black people. He does. And there are times where I agree with him in part. On some topics. Okay, a broken clock is right nearly twice a day. Okay, but will he talk about? He'll talk about Target, but what about the target being placed on our kids and how the NBA in his city? It's the home of Jamal Bryant. Where he reigns today. What will he say about it? But changing tunes just a little bit, something more positive about our community. On the other side, AJ Dybantsa reportedly choosing education before the NBA struck a chord with many people. I want to show this video clip right here and get your reaction to it.
But do you care about going number one? Do you want to go number one?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that same competitiveness.
Yeah.
Do you think you will?
Well, I might not leave.
What do you mean?
Like, I might not leave college.
Why not?
No, I just got to return to the season.
So you haven't made up your mind that you're going to go into the draft after?
Nah, my mom wants me to graduate.
Really?
Yeah, so I might not leave. But I might leave. Like, I don't know, the fans might get into my head, talk about, 1 more year, maybe 3 more years. I don't know. But I'm going to have to talk to my mom. So
your mom wants you to stay and get your degree.
She wants me to get my degree.
Yeah. What are you studying?
I haven't chose, but I'll probably do financial management.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why does she think it's important that you get your degree?
Because, as mom, she's thinking like post-basketball and, God forbid if anything happens to me, I should always have a backup plan.
I think people would be shocked to hear that, though, because everybody's assuming you're going into the draft after this season.
I mean, yeah, they can assume. I ain't probably say anything.
But when you do go in, you want to go number one.
Yeah.
See, normally when situations like this take place and the Black star athlete is on his way to the NBA, mama is saying, baby, you can finally buy me a Bentley. You can get me a Ferrari. You can get me a Mercedes. I don't have to work anymore. You can buy me that house I always wanted. But not this Black mother. She's saying, yes, you can be the number 1 draft pick, but you need to finish your education. Delano, what do you think?
It's a great message from his mom and hopefully his dad as well. I think it's important to get your education. Obviously, many, particularly the highest level athletes who go into college athletics are not there. I mean, really to get a degree, right? They're there. In some respects, they're there for the same reason that other students are there, which is the average student says, I need to go to college in order to put myself in a position to earn a living once I leave. And these players are doing the same thing. It's just, for most of them, it doesn't take them 4 years. Now, there was a time when star players and even Hall of Fame NBA players stayed in college 3 and 4 years and finished their degrees, got their degrees, and then went into the league. They tended to be obviously more physically mature, more emotionally mature, and just more socially mature. That is not the case. As soon as they, teams see a little bit of talent, the guys start to say, okay, well, now's my time. It's clear that he's at least thinking about doing it in a different way. Now, whether he does or not, it remains to be seen. Like many teenagers, you could tell he's somewhat nonchalant, both by the way he's dressed, by the way he speaks, by the way he's holding himself and his posture. So I wouldn't put a ton into the statement, but it is markedly different than what we tend to see from the highest profile players in the sport today.
Do you think that young athletes receive an immense amount of pressure to chase wealth early?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Many of them come from impoverished circumstances, and you can understand why the prospect of being able to go to college for a year and then go to a professional sports league where your first contract will give you more money in 1 year than most people will ever touch in their entire life.
Mhm.
That's a huge incentive.
Sure.
So yeah, there's that pressure. Some of it is more intense for some families. Some players come into college and go into the league from solidly middle class backgrounds. Right, many high profile players are the sons and or daughters of professionals. I'm thinking Peyton Manning. I'm thinking Grant Hill. So there's less financial pressure there. But if you have a kid who's growing up in the projects of Coney Island, New York, or South Side of Chicago, there is a ton of pressure for him to get to the league as quickly as possible in order to provide the type of financial stability that most people dream of in their lifetime.
Delano, we have about a minute left, and I want to respect your time. Can you share with the audience some of the things that you're working on at the Heritage Foundation to build up the nuclear family?
Sure. So, Heritage has recently put out a large family policy paper. I'm one of the co-authors on that. So we're talking about ways to create a culture of marriage and stronger families. That's both through policy proposals like, tax credits that would put money in the hands of young people when they become adults and decide to get married, as well as cultural remedies like encouraging more religious participation, encouraging pastors to step up and really incorporate messages of marriage and family into the types of things that they do among their local assemblies. So that's a big thing. And then I'm also doing some work as it relates more specifically to the Black family, and that's both in sort of the DC area and in my actual community, as well as on a more national scale. I'm looking for ways to create a culture of marriage and strong family, particularly in the neighborhoods where those institutions have disappeared. So part of that is my forthcoming book, The Vanishing Black Family, which comes out on June 16th. And I'm looking forward to that book sparking some real serious and much needed conversations.
Thank you so much. I want a copy of that book, okay?
Absolutely.
I want to support you. Matter of fact, how many books come in the case?
I'm not sure. I think somebody told me maybe about 15, something like that.
I want a case. I want to be the first person to get a case of these books. I want to promote what you are doing. So you let me know. I want a case. We can make the transaction today on a Friday. We can get it done. I want to support what you're doing. Listen, follow this brilliant young man. He's doing a phenomenal job making America truly great again. God bless you. And thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Delano Squires. He's doing a phenomenal job through the Heritage Foundation, and he's working on making sure that righteousness remains at the forefront of our society. That is imperative. The Bible speaks to these things, that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach towards any people. And, when we consider much of the challenges that people face today, be it, interpersonal, be it in their own shortcomings and struggles, there's also a challenge that many people are seeking to overcome, and it's called debt. The student loan debt crisis in particular is about $300 billion. That's $1 billion, my friends. And $45 billion of that is labeled as distressed. But there is hope. It's called Y Refi. You see, if you have distressed or defaulted private student loans, nobody is coming to bail you out. And bankruptcy is not an option. But you can take charge of your situation by contacting Y Refi. Can you imagine being debt-free and not living under this burden anymore. The first step is contacting Y Refi. If you go to yrefi.com, you can read testimonials from other people who have been where you are and how they've escaped. You can even see what their monthly payments were versus what they are now. YRefi offers a 3-minute rate check without any credit impact. Bad credit is accepted. Microphone check one. This is not AI. Let me say it again. Bad credit is accepted. Do you have a co-borrower? YRefi can get them released from the loan. You can give mom and dad a much needed break. You can even skip a payment every 6 months, up to 12 times without penalty. You don't have to ignore that mountain of student loan statements on your kitchen table anymore. Just call 888-YRefi-85. That's 888-YRefi-85, or log on to YRefi.com. And now on Disturbing the Peace, I want to have a conversation with Keisha King. Keisha King is a parental rights advocate, education activist, and cultural commentator who speaks on issues impacting children, families, and American culture. She is known for addressing debates around education, media influence, and the role of parents in guiding what their children are exposed to in schools and entertainment. Joining us now is Keisha King. Keisha King, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, John?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, there are many things that you're working on nationally and you're speaking to. What's some of the pressing topics that you have seen in this moment and in this hour that God is using your voice to speak to?
I think we've seen everything happening in the education system, and what we're dealing with right now is sort of the fallout from decades of improperly indoctrinating children. Actually, we should probably say they were properly indoctrinating them, but they failed at actually educating them. And so we see the fallout. And I feel like God is pointing me in the direction of paying attention to progressive Christianity and its rise that's becoming popular across the nation, with Democrats trying to glom onto Christianity. James Tallarico, the one who just won the race in Texas against Jasmine Crockett, Democrat, he is like, we need to reclaim Christianity for Democrats. And his version of Christianity is also, is basically an anti-Christianity. It's an anti-gospel. He's a false teacher and spewing false demonic doctrines. And as believers, I think we can't be dismissive of that part of Christianity, or this so-called Christianity that's going out into the land. So I feel a sense to pay attention to that, because I think a lot of people are being fooled by this progressive Christianity that's rising up in the country.
But with the way you speak and talk, Keisha King, you sound like you might be a conservative, and Black women are not supposed to be conservatives. You're supposed to be all about the chucks and the pearls. You're supposed to be about the D9. You're supposed to be about, all of the things that Jamal Bryant pushes and all of the woke preachers and the woke pastors. I mean, how has life been as a Black woman bucking the system?
It's been interesting. Just to share my testimony really quick, right after the 2016 election, I started asking questions, and I found Dr. Thomas Sowell and Walter Williams. And, I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And as a believer, learning more about what Democrats believed in their history, I'm like, I can't support this. But the most important transformation in my life came when the Lord sat me down. I was on my couch like about 2018 or so, and he told me that my skin color had become an idol in my life. It changed my life. That revelation changed my life, and it set me free. Here's the thing, and you know this as a pastor, that when you come out of darkness, you don't know how much you were in the darkness until you come out. And I did not realize how much I had made living my life through the lens of being a Black woman, a Black this, Black that. And God lovingly but very firmly corrected me that is putting your race before me. You're supposed to see yourself through the lens of Christ, not through the lens of your Blackness. And it was very convicting, but also so freeing. I felt literally like 10,000 pounds had been lifted off of me. And that it has changed my life. So since then, I felt the Holy Spirit calling me into politics. And at the time I was like, no, thank you. But, obedience is better than sacrifice. So being obedient, I moved forward, just started volunteering. I ended up singing for the President of the United States, the best president of my lifetime, Donald Trump. 4 times at 4 Trump rallies, running the Black Voices for Trump office in my city and doing very well, might I add, with that. And just, listening to the Holy Spirit and as he guides me, guides my step in this process. So it has definitely been a interesting journey, but one that I am certainly glad to be on.
You mentioned that God upbraided you about making your skin tone an idol. What are some facets within that idolatry?
Mhm.
What are some of the things that we kind of cling to, hold on to, that is actually ungodly and creates that divide?
So we tend to, in the, quote unquote, Black community, we tend to put race, like what politically, when people talk about Blackness, they're not talking about your literal skin color. They use that,
Mm.
but they're actually talking about what you believe about being Black. Because notice, if you change what you believe about being Black, suddenly you're not Black anymore. So I'm like, okay, then there must be something else to being what they say being Black is,
Right.
than what people what we try to make ourselves believe it is. Because it's obvious. But some of the things that you will hear people, is particularly believers, those who profess the name of Christ, they will say, oh, I'm Black and and oppressed. God reminded me on that day that you cannot be more than a conqueror and also oppressed. And it was he's like, that is double-mindedness, and being double-minded. A man that is double-minded is unstable in all of his ways. And if
That's
you
right.
look at the Black community, there is definitely a lot of instability. Okay, so
Yes.
the word of God is true, and it's apparent. You cannot profess to be a Bible-believing Christian, a follower of Christ, and also believe that you're oppressed, that you are a victim, that you are somehow, that you don't have, that you're not a member of the kingdom.
That's
Because
right.
it
That's
doesn't
right.
make any sense. How are you a member of the kingdom, an heir to the throne of the true and living God, the God who spoke and created the entire universe, and then say, well, he could do all that, but I don't know, that racism thing, that might be just a little bit too hard for God. It's ridiculous.
It is.
Ridiculous when we think about what we try to claim, as Black people. Oh, I'm oppressed. Whether you see yourself as inferior or superior, either one makes no difference, because at the end of the day, when we drop this body, it's going into the dirt.
That's right. That's
And
right.
you will stand before the true and living God, and he's not going to ask you what you did with your Blackness. He's going to ask you what you did with your life. What did you do with the life that I gave you? That's the question. And the enemy, just so people know, he don't care about you being Black. He don't care about you being white. He really don't care. He don't care about any of those things. He cares about your soul, and it has no color. But he wants to lay claim over it.
Last question before we move to this Teen Titans twerking toy. Before we go there, I want to ask you this question, and this is the question I ask people sometimes. I need to ask more people this question. What's harder to be, a Christian or a Black conservative?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. I think it is harder to be a black conservative, because whom the sun sets free is free indeed. Like, you can choose to carry, all of that other stuff if you want to, but that doesn't mean that God gave it to you to carry. So being a black conservative, that's the label that, that it's just it's a category. But when you start to take on that idea that becomes your identity, that's a problem. Because before I'm a black conservative, before I'm a Republican, before all of those things, I am a follower of Christ. I am Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. That trumps everything. It trumps everything. Everything else has to come behind that. So you can label me whatever you want. Just make sure you call me a child of the Most High God.
I love it. I love it. And I agree with you 100%. I want to now move to this video that's gone viral, and I want to get your take on it. I know that part of what you do is fighting for parental rights and advocating for the family and for children. So I want to get your motherly advice on this. Take a look at this video clip.
Yeah, so tell me how I'm in Burlington, right? And my son comes to me with a toy.
What's that toy?
Look at the toy.
Billy.
Now you think it's all cute or whatever until you see this. Look at that. Why? Look. Why in the hell would a boy want a toy with a boy shaking his butt? This is ridiculous. It's not funny. This is ridiculous. This is what's wrong with the world, y'all. This is what's wrong with the world. Horrible. Ridiculous.
All right. So from Roblox and the insanity that we see there, to the Atlanta Hawks trying to have a Magic City strip club themed basketball event, to now you have the Teen Titans toy in the store and it's a boy twerking. Keisha, talk to me. I need to hear something. Help the people out there that just don't understand.
What is happening is the enemy wants to remake man in his own image. So the enemy wants, God says there's male and female, and there are ways that men behave, and there are things that are inherent to men, and there are things that are inherent to women, and there's order, and God has a standard, and we understand all those things. And what the enemy is trying to do is remake man in his image, so men can be women. So the enemy says men can do and be concerned about the things that women are concerned about. But that is just not what God says. God does not say that. And when you come into agreement with the enemy, if you buy the toy thinking, oh, it's just cute, it's just a little toy, let the kids, you are coming into agreement with the enemy, who is an adversary, not only to your soul, but he is an enemy to God. So why would you let your children participate, purchase, buy toys, or watch television shows that not just that have boys moving their bodies inappropriately and doing things like that, but you shouldn't want your daughters to watch inappropriate things and move their bodies in that way either. But when you begin to relax the standard and say, well, maybe just a little bit. Let me remind everybody, a little leaven's a whole lump, okay? And once it gets mixed in there, you can't get it out. It's going to take some repenting. You don't want to go through all of that. Just say no, everybody. Don't go and buy these types of toys. Be good stewards over your children. Watch what they are looking at. Be like that mother. Examine the toy. In these days, You have to be hyper aware that the enemy is incredibly deceptive.
Mm.
Like, it's not going to be obvious the lie that he's trying to get you to believe.
Sure.
So you have to be incredibly hyper aware, scrutinizing what is before your eye gate, your ears, what you're taking in, and what your children are taking in.
Mm.
Hyper aware. If they're teaching that men can be women and women can be men in public government schools,
Yes.
what are they going to be doing outside of the school? Because the same entity that pushes that into these indoctrination camps is the same entity that prompts somebody to make a toy like that. It's
That's
the
right.
same one. So just like we're aware of what's going on in the schools, and where we want even more people to become aware, because there are a lot of people, quite frankly, who aren't aware, you have to be aware of what you're buying them, what they're watching on their screens, what is coming into your home. I'm not trying to be everybody's parent, but I'm just saying, like, I'm a witness. You better be mindful of what you're taking in and what your children are taking in, so you don't get taken by the enemy.
Now, the manufacturer of this toy, I don't think they made the toy with outrage in mind. They made the toy with capitalism in mind. They expected that there would be a large swath of parents who would purchase the toy. What does this say about the current climate in which we live in when it comes to parents and choices and decisions that are being made?
Mm. It's really unfortunate. It shows that as Americans, a country founded on Judeo-Christian values, that we have strayed so far from the blessing that God has given us in this land. We have strayed so far from being thankful and grateful and honoring him and worshiping him and living by what he has called us, living how he has called us to live. We've strayed so far, and to the point that manufacturers could put who think, you know what, this is going to be a great idea, because that a manufacturer, even if he would have had the thought 50 years ago, would have never put it out, because the people were not willing to accept it. They knew that. So why are we willing to accept it now? What has changed? And that's, where I think we need to pay more attention to, is the culture. The culture. That is what dictates. In the Bible, I hope get this right, because I'm talking to a pastor, but if I remember correctly, when the Israelites, when they started to entertain other cultures and things like that, it was because of the God that these other people worshiped. That was God's problem.
Indeed.
They were mixing with the people that did not worship Yahweh. And we see what happens to the Israelites over and over again. You know what I'm saying? So let's not be the people who continue to mix with those who don't worship the true and living God.
You're right. God wanted to keep them from making allegiances that would ultimately pull them and their heart away from him,
Right.
because of the polytheism of many of these cultures and these other entities. I really strongly feel that we're in an age where the morality of children is being challenged, but ultimately the morality of parents is being challenged. We live in a time where if a boy is very effeminate and he likes to play with Barbie dolls and he wants to paint his fingernails and things of that nature, we sometimes embrace that and say he'll just grow out of it and it's harmless, don't bother him. Or we have even men who have little girls, their daughters 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the dad sits on the floor and lets his daughter paint his fingernails, which I am vehemently against. I have a daughter. I love her with my heart, soul, in my mind, all of me, but she's not painting daddy's fingernails. And I would not walk around doing such because I think I would be teaching her the wrong thing. And so as lines have become blurred and we have become desensitized, it's apparent that the Antichrist, the spirit of the Antichrist, this I am going to invert what God has called normative and acceptable, holy and just. This has become a mainstay to the point of the fact that, I travel the country going to school board meetings, addressing the kind of content that the toy was promoting, to children. And I'm shut down all the time. I'm told that I can't read from the books. I was once handcuffed. I'm kicked out by sheriffs. I've been kicked out of 8 school board meetings nationally.
Mhm.
I'm going to Boise, Idaho next week. And I remember when I went to Boise, Idaho about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I flew nearly 3,000 miles to speak for 2 minutes. Let me just let that sink in. I flew 3,000 miles just to speak for 2 minutes.
Right.
And of course, I want to be at home with my family, with my wife, with my children. But God has me on mission and assignment, only to get to Boise, Idaho, and to be told by a sheriff who came into the school board meeting and pulled me out and told me, hey, I've been instructed to tell you that if you get off subject, we're going to remove you or we're going to arrest you.
Mm.
And so what we're seeing right now nationally in the United States of America, a nation that's supposed to be a nation under God, is that we have this surge of little gods that are being erected who think they know more than the creator.
Come on now.
That's where we are. And you're right. If this is being done in the public school system and there are tax dollars that go along with it to support it, to condone it, to prop it up, the DEI, the gender theory, the queer theory, the critical race theory, all of the stuff, then yes, the manufacturer says, hey, man, if this is a business now, let me make the twerk toy. Because the parents are so dumb that they send their kids to the school systems without revolting. Right now, all parents don't have the resources to go to a private Christian school or a private school. They don't, okay? But if you're going to be willing to send your child off to Babylon, you can't be shocked when they come back as Babylonians. And so
Hello.
I'm not preaching a message of we need to completely abandon the public school system, although my kids have never been. Let me just say
My
that.
kids are out.
there we go. But I am saying that we have to treat it like it's a mission field. Do you agree with that? Should we treat the public school system like a mission field?
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to look at it. I've never heard it quite like that. And when you were talking about that, it just made me think about, just like the public school system doesn't have to compete for customers, so to speak. The toy makers and these people who are okay with promoting this type of debauchery in society, they're looking like, this is an audience of 50 million people. They have an audience of all of these young children whose minds are just waiting for them to get a little hold to, just a little hold to, and all they need is that toe in to slowly start the deception into the child's mind. You want to be mindful of the seeds that are sown into your children, because the enemy, he doesn't care. Oh, he's just 2 months old. He's just 3 weeks old. He's just 2, 5. The enemy does not care. He's coming to kill, steal, and destroy. Meaning, if he ain't killing, if he ain't stealing, if he ain't destroying, he ain't coming. So because that is his mission, we have to be on mission, as you said, to and be evangelizing in the schools. I think that I love it. keep going. I'm here. Matter of fact, if you need somebody to come alongside you, holla at your girl. It's such a necessary a thing. I think that's brilliant. We should have been doing that. Like,
Well,
good
listen,
on you.
the movement continues. I'm going to 10 school board meetings this year. What state are you in, if you don't mind me asking?
I am in Florida, and I've been there.
Okay.
I have definitely done the school board, gone down there, and made my voice heard. But the way you're coming at it is
Yes.
it's a different perspective, and that I think that's incredible.
Well, thank you. We're going to keep it going. I'll be releasing hopefully soon the calendar of what we're going to be doing, and we may end up back in Florida, because even though Florida is a red state,
Yeah.
just like Texas and other states, there's still a pandemic of these issues and problems that must be addressed. Keisha King, you have been a blessing today and generous with your time. How can people support you?
Go to KeishaKing.com and you can find all my social media and all that stuff there. But I am also the host of the Keisha King Show. So please go find me on YouTube, subscribe, and throw some gold hearts in the chat over there on Keisha King, on the Keisha King Show.
Awesome. Keisha, thank you so much. I'm going to have you back on the show again to have more dialogue. I appreciate you for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it on this Friday. I pray that you were impacted by this episode. Listen, we can't be sending our families and our children and our sons and our daughters out to basketball games knowing that they're partnering with strip clubs. I mean, come on, man. And then, toys promoted to boys with a Teen Titan twerking. God forbid, man. You know what? People need Jesus. Yep. People need Jesus. Church is around the corner. Sunday morning is coming. Pray today, pray on Saturday, but get to church on Sunday and pray for our nation. Do me a big favor. Like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Set your notifications. Push this content out so that the world can see and know that we are disturbing the peace and we are proud about it. God bless you and God bless America.